If you're a new parent, there's this one sound that pretty much defines your world for the first few months, right? It's a sound that's both this tiny miracle and, let's be honest, a massive mystery. So in this explainer, we're going to decode that sound. We're going to move past the frustration and really try to understand the secret language your newborn is trying to speak.
Oh, you know this scene. I bet you do. It's that late afternoon, early evening slot, what so many parents call the witching hour. You've fed them, you've changed them, you've rocked them, you've paced the floor, but the crying just keeps going. It's intense, it feels inconsolable, and it can make you feel so overwhelmed, like you're failing some kind of pop quiz you never studied for.
But what if we've been asking the totally wrong question? Instead of, how do I make it stop? What if the real question is, what are you trying to tell me? Asking that, well, it changes everything. Suddenly, it's not a problem you have to solve. It's a message you get to understand.
Okay, so the very first thing we have to get straight is that a baby's cry isn't random noise. It's not static. It is their primary, their most urgent, and honestly, their most effective way of communicating. They aren't crying at you, they're crying to you.
And look, this isn't just some nice, comforting thought. It's pure biology. Medline Plus puts it perfectly. A cry is literally their first form of verbal communication. It is a tool that nature has designed to get a response, a survival mechanism fine-tuned over millennia to make sure their needs, food, safety, comfort, get met.
So if it's a message, why does it feel so chaotic, so completely relentless sometimes? Well, the answer isn't in what they're trying to say, but in their hardware. The real key is inside that incredible, still developing newborn brain.
See, a baby is born with a brain that is, you could say, neurologically unfinished. Imagine it's like a brand new supercomputer. All the parts are there, billions of neurons, but the essential cables that connect everything, the software that helps regulate emotions, that's all still being installed, day by day.
And this right here, this comparison gets to the absolute heart of the issue, the sensory filter. As an adult, your brain just effortlessly tunes out the buzz of the fridge or the feeling of your socks. A newborn? They can't do that. Every single light, every sound, every touch is coming in at full volume, all at once, all day long.
And that leads us right back to the witching hour. That constant flood of information just builds and builds until their little nervous system is completely maxed out. That intense evening crying, it's often a sensory reset. It's their body's only way to discharge all that built-up tension from the day.
But here is the good news. Before that big sensory meltdown happens, babies are actually sending out all these smaller, quieter signals. And if you can learn to spot these, you can often meet their needs before they have to crank up the volume to a full-blown cry. Hunger cues are a great example. They're pretty easy to spot once you know what you're looking for. You know that little head turning, searching for something? That's the rooting reflex. Or you might see tightly clenched fists, or the little hands are just constantly finding their way to their mouth. Crying, believe it or not, is actually a late sign of hunger.
And the signals for being tired or overstimulated are just as clear. You might see jerky arm movements, which shows their nervous system is getting overloaded. And this one is so important, gaze aversion. When a baby deliberately looks away from you or away from a toy, they are literally saying, "I've had enough. I need a break now, please."
And beyond their body language, the sound itself is a clue. Over time, parents often become experts at telling the difference between, say, the rhythmic, repetitive cry of hunger versus that sudden, sharp, high-pitched cry of pain. So listening closely, really tuning in, can tell you so much about what they need.
Okay, so even when you're getting good at reading the signals, it can still feel, well, just relentless. And that's because it is. But here is maybe the single most reassuring piece of information I can share with any new parent. This super intense period of crying is a totally normal, totally predictable, and, most importantly, a temporary phase.
This is what experts call the crying curve. For most babies, the crying starts to ramp up around 2 to 3 weeks old, and then it hits a peak, usually the hardest part, around 6 to 8 weeks. But then, look what happens. After that peak, it begins to gradually go down. This isn't random, it's a biological timetable.
In fact, this whole phase is so well documented that experts came up with a name for it, just to help parents understand what's going on. It's called the period of purple crying. And what this does is reframe the whole idea of colic. It's not something wrong with your baby. It's a developmental stage that almost all babies go through.
Now, PURPLE is actually an acronym that just perfectly describes this phase. P is for that peak of crying we just talked about. U is for unexpected. It can start and stop for no reason at all. R is for resist soothing, and this is a tough one because sometimes nothing you do seems to help. P is for a pain-like face, even when they're not hurt. L for long-lasting episodes, and E for evening, when it's usually at its worst. It just validates everything you're going through.
So if crying is a normal stage, and sometimes it just resists soothing, what's your role in all this? What are you supposed to do? Well, this is where your job shifts from being a problem solver to something way deeper, and honestly way more powerful. You become their anchor in the storm.
There is a scientific term for this. It's called co-regulation, and it's one of the most important ideas in all of early childhood development. Here's the deal. A baby's brain cannot calm itself down. It simply doesn't have the wiring yet for self-regulation, so it literally has to borrow your calm to find its own.
Here's how it works step by step. 1. Your baby feels distressed and cries. 2. You respond with warmth, holding them, rocking them, using a soft voice. 3. Your calm, regulated nervous system acts like a tuning fork, helping their chaotic system find a calmer rhythm. And 4. This is the magic part. Every time you do this, thousands of times, you are literally helping to build the neural pathways in their brain that they will use for the rest of their life to manage their own emotions.
And this right here is precisely why that old advice about spoiling a baby is so wrong. You cannot spoil an infant by holding them. Every single time you pick up your crying baby, you are not creating a bad habit. You are meeting a fundamental biological need for safety, and you are literally building a healthy, resilient brain.
So let's just circle back for a second to that idea of hope. Because when you're exhausted and it's 2 in the morning, hope is the most important thing to hold on to.
There is a reason it's called the period of purple crying. That first word, period, is the most important part of the whole phrase. It's intentional. It means this incredibly challenging phase has a clear beginning and a clear end. This is not forever.
Of course, while all this crying is normal, your parental intuition is always your best guide. You have to trust your gut. If a cry sounds uniquely pained or if it comes along with other symptoms, like a fever, vomiting, a baby who refuses to eat, or any big change in their behavior, that's your signal. Don't hesitate. Call a doctor.
So the next time you're in the thick of it, walking those floors in the middle of the night, just remember this. You're not just trying to stop the tears. You're not just surviving another witching hour. You are doing the profound, essential work of building a human being. You are their safe harbor. You are their external regulator. You are the architect of their emotional foundation. And that is a powerful job.